Hello and welcome. This is Matthias from mamoworld.com and welcome in class 5 of this tutorial series here where I explain to you how to write your own block scripts with automation blocks. We already started in the previous episodes to create this project setup script, so to speak, which creates a new project, creates a folder structure here, imports some images and these kinds of things. And today we want to extend the script such that it also creates a new composition. So this is what the script creates so far, and now we want to create a new composition too. And also then we learn how to add some guides to the composition. But let's start with the composition itself. If you wonder where to find the blocks for this, well, it's not something specific to the general project. It's not about project items here. It's about compositions. So we go to AE comp, and here you find a block, new empty comp as my comp. And if you drag it here, the block gets much bigger and shows you all the options that it has. In general, you can either create an empty comp or a comp with some clips. So creating a comp with some clips is similar to just selecting some clips and dragging them here. And then you don't have to specify the size of the comp and the duration, but this will depend then on the clips that you drag there. But let me show you the block here to create an empty comp. So you can give it a new comp name, and let's say in our case the comp should have the same name as our project, the name that the user entered here, yeah, project name. So instead of entering a name here, we just go to the variable and use our project name as a composition name. Target bin is where it should be located. We don't want it to be inside of any subfolder. If you wanted this, you could select the subfolder and click here, but I don't do this for now. We keep the size as a normal HD resolution, and the pixel aspect ratio 1 is for square pixels, which is in 99% of the cases what you typically want to do. For the duration, you can enter this in different variants. If you just put a number here, so you could go to the math section and put a number here and say 5, then this would be 5 seconds, okay? It's also interpreted as seconds if you just put a text, as we have currently, with 10s is also 10 seconds. You could also write here something like 100 frames, for example, and then it accepts this kind of duration too. And finally here you've got the frame rate, 24 frames per second. Maybe we want to have 30 here instead, okay? Now let's check the script and run it. It asks me to enter a new project name, and I keep it as a default here. It creates my new project. It imported my footage here, and here I've got now my awesome project composition. And if we take a look at the settings, it's exactly what we wanted. It's square pixel, frame rate of 30, and HD resolution, and a duration of 100 frames. So the last frame is number 99, and the first one is number 0. Now, next we want to add some guides to the composition, because I always like to have a crosshair in the middle of my composition. And since guides are something that belongs to a composition, you should find a block for this also here in the comp category. Let's see, we've got here add horizontal guides at positions 0. Okay. So we can just put this here, and we want the horizontal one to be at a height of half of this here actually. So we can put here 540, and then we duplicate it and do it vertical. And for the vertical one, I want to have half of this one here, which is 960. Now, by default, these guides are created in the active composition. However, when we create this composition, we cannot be sure that this composition is really active after we created it. So we want instead to use the composition that we actually created here. Yeah? And so we could either try to access it by name. So we could duplicate this here and say we want to have the composition with this name. This would work at least if there is no other composition with the same name. But the more reliable way of doing it is to use the variable that this block creates for us. So this block first creates a new composition and then saves it in the variable myComp. So we should find this right here now. And here it is. So we can just drag this in here to say we want to create these guides in this composition. So let's oh, and I just see here I entered the wrong number. Let's quickly fix this. And now let's run the script. Let's create again my awesome project. And if we open the composition, you can now see that we've got this nice crosshair here in the middle of my composition. If you want to create more than one guide, you can see that it here says position and then in parentheses an S, so it could also be multiple positions. Yeah, this means you could use a list. List you find here, and here you've got default lists with 2 or 3 entries. So you can also change this always here, for example, add or remove additional entries from our list. And now we can take numbers, and let's say we want to also create these guides. We want to have one at 0, one at 540, and one at 1080. Yeah, so one at the top, one at the middle, and one at the bottom, for example. Of course, you could instead also just duplicate this entire block 3 times, but this is a little bit more compact to do the same. Yeah, you can give it an entire list of positions. Let's check if this is working. And indeed, now our composition has these 3 guides here. So let's go back here again to a single one, because I really just want to have the crosshair here in my case. This is maybe also a good occasion here to show you how to do some math. Yeah, so maybe you want to say, I don't want to hard code the 540 here, but I want it to be in the middle, no matter what size the composition actually has, so that when we change these numbers, the guides here update instantly. Yeah, so for this, we go to the math category. We want to say, we want to set this actually to the comp size divided by 2. Yeah, so half of the comp width. Now the question is, how do we access the width of the comp? And if you want to access any property of a comp, any attribute of the comp it's actually called, you go here to the comp category and you have get attribute and set attribute. And let's see what kind of attributes composition has. It has many, many different attributes. Active camera, background color, the current time, which is here the current time indicator. A display start frame, this is the time that is shown here for the very first frame. Duration of the comp, and you can read and write all those values. And one of them is the height of the composition. Yeah, so you can put this in here, and now this statement here takes the height of the composition and divides it by 2, and we just can feed it in here. Now I duplicate this entire construct, duplicate, and plug it in here. And here, for the vertical line, we don't want to have the height, but the width of the composition. So we go to composition and choose the width of it. A note at this point here, again, whenever you wonder what a block is actually doing, you can right-click on it and choose help. And here you have now the documentation of the get attribute of comp and set attribute of comp. And under set attribute, you can see all these individual attributes are documented with a little description. It's not documented again under get attribute, because the get and set are really the same properties, except that here you read them and here you can replace those with a new value. Okay, there's now just one little detail that we need to fix, and this is that exactly as in this block where we used my composition as a composition where we want to create the guides, also in this block we want to use not the active composition but my composition. So I duplicate it here to make sure that we actually measure the height and the width of exactly the composition that we created here and not the one that is currently active, which might not be the same. Okay, so let me save this really quick and then create a new script, because there's one more thing I want to show you, and this is how to create a new composition with footage. So we go here again to the new comp block and then choose comp with clips. And now you can again provide here a comp name and a target bin where it should be put here in the project. And then you either add a single or several bins or project items. So the most easy thing you can do is just to select one footage item. Let's choose one of those images here and connect it. And then you choose here the layer order. This is only relevant if you have more than one image. And the duration, this is only for still images. Yeah, for others, it will take for the clips, of course, and for the composition, the duration of the individual video files that you selected. And here you've got an overlap duration. This is again if you have multiple only, but run it for now. And you can see it created a composition, new composition, so this name here. And if we take a look at this composition, it just consists of this one super exciting image here. Now, if you want to add more of them, you can either create a list. So we take our list here, drag it on top of our source clips, and now we need here pickers for individual project items. So we go to project item and click here to get this one, and I duplicate it 3 times. And now let's say here as first image we want to have this one, and as second image we want to have this one, and as a third image we want this one. And now let's say we don't choose a layer or a stack, which would mean all of them are on top of each other, but we want to have a sequence order. If we run this, it created yet another new composition, and this time you can see it sequenced these 3 images here, and you also have some overlap, which is exactly this overlap duration of 5 frames that is specified here. As always, you can specify times either in seconds or in frames. And now let's see how this is working if you want to use all clips of a particular folder. So for this, we need then a folder picker, so to speak. So we go to project items and go here to project bin, drag it here. So we want to have all images of this bin here. You can click here to load it. And now to show you some variation, let's say we don't go to sequence, but to sequence reverse. And by the way, if you wonder what sequence audio and video separately means, you could have here like 2 folders, a list of 2 folders, for example, one with video files and one with audio files. Or in this folder, you could have both video and audio files. And if you sequence audio and video separately, it means it sequences all the video files and then below that all the audio files again, but it's not like treating them the same, but doing 2 sequences, one on top of the other, one with the video or image files and one with the audio files. Okay, let's go for sequence reverse and run this one more time. And now you can see our third new composition has all these images from the folder, and all of them are now sequenced backwards. So the first one is at the bottom of the layer stack here. Okay, that's it for this episode. Today we learned how to create compositions and guides in compositions. And in the next episode, we are going to take a look at how to add shapes or shape layers to a composition. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.